and welcome to Inquire to Choir. My name is Eva, still, and I'm again here to help you, fellow choir people. Long time, I know. My absence will be explained at the end of the video because I don't want to make you wait for the choir content, and this video is long overdue, so let's hop right to it. In this video, I will do my best to explain to you how I write my choral arrangements. For a beginner choir, for an amateur choir, for a starter choir that is just dipping their toes. If it is your first time or the beginning stages of your first times of writing choral arrangements, I believe and I hope you will find this video helpful. As you probably know, this video idea was firstly introduced in the last video here on the channel. I encouraged you to start writing your own custom choral arrangements for your choir. If you are having trouble with your choir as a choral director, if you're having troubles with your choir sound, and all the available choral arrangements are too difficult for your choir. This video is for choir directors, but also for everyone who has a need of translating a song into a choral arrangement. We will go through theory and I will show you an example of mine, but please note that it is extremely difficult to make a video that is helpful to everyone. I don't know your choir or your skills, your difficulties or your purpose, your song, your style, your choir sound, or your culture. So I will try to be as general as possible, and you can of course adjust everything I say here in order to make it beneficial for your needs. These instructions I consider guidelines and they come from my own experience. I do not consider them rules. Plus, if you have been here on the channel for a while, then you know I tend to give you permission slips to go against any rule or any instruction I even say here on the channel if you believe that doing that will do your choir good. So let's start. The thing about how I write arrangements is that I try to make them functional. There are many arrangements I want to write, but I am writing for a particular choir. So not every choir is the same and not every choir has the same capabilities. So I tend to write arrangements that bring out the best from the choir I'm writing for. Of course, we all have our ideas, what we want some things to sound like, and I had been taught at the Academy of Music how to write arrangements, but when I started writing my own, when I started working with choirs, I realized that not every choir is balanced enough, not every choir is in the same position, so I have to consider that when I'm writing a good arrangement for a particular choir, not a general one, but for a particular one, I have to consider that I have to take my artistry a bit down and intervene with some functionality. And the instructions I will give you here in the video are probably not some of the things that you have been told before or you haven't thought about before when it comes to writing arrangements. And of course, there are certain things you have to know when it comes to your skills. You have to be able to write the melody down of the song you wish to arrange, and you have to know the harmonies that accompany that said melody. That is something that is a given. That is a skill that can be perfected. There are many sources on the World Wide Web that makes you more skillful at this, but you can also find the harmonies really easily. If you do not know the chords, you can always type in guitar tabs or guitar chords and the chords are the same. It doesn't matter that they're written on the guitar website. Okay, so with that in mind, the first step in writing a choral arrangement I would do, and I always do, is I get to know the choir that I'm writing the arrangement for. If you are the director of the choir you're aiming for, then you know them. Even if you do not know the choir you're writing for, you can always come to the rehearsal, you can listen to the recordings, you can ask the technical stuff about the choir, how many singers there are, how many singers in every voice part. Often I see people writing arrangements for the imaginary choir and not for the choir that is in front of them. And I often say here on the channel, you have to be very honest with yourself, with your choir sound, with your choir capabilities, with your choir problems, and the good stuff about your choir. The truth and the reality of your choir is something that can only benefit you in order to become a better choir director and to write a good choral arrangement for them. For example, I have choirs that are very big, 60 people, and they're perfectly balanced, and the colors of their voices are perfectly balanced, and I can write whatever I want. You can practice them and rehearse them to be able to sing whatever I wish. But I also had choirs that had, for example, 2 sopranos, 6 altos, and 1 bass, and I had to work with them. There was not a single choral arrangement that would work. I had to write choral arrangement for them. So you have to be really realistic. If the balance is really off, then you have to compensate that in an arrangement. I'm talking about knowing your choir vocal range as a whole, as a group, how high they can go, how low they can go, and the vocal range of every singer if you can, but every voice part you should know the vocal range of every voice part. So every voice group, for example, in theory sopranos can go from here to here, but your sopranos go from here to here. Okay, so there is a difference. It doesn't make sense to write an arrangement in which there are tones that are very hard for the singers, for your singers to sing. Of course, you aim for improving the choir, but some things are more achievable and some things are less achievable. Not only their vocal range, but their sweet spots of their vocal ranges. What that means is in which tones they feel comfortable, which tones are their breaking point, which pitch is something that changes their color, which range is the range they sound full, in which range they can sing a long note without exerting themselves too much. That is very important to know. That is very beneficial to know, because if you know that, then you can arrange in a way that you give them their best chance. Also, where do they sound their best? Is it a quick song, a quick rhythm, energetic, lots of, fluidity, or they tend to sound better if the sound is calmer, the notes are longer, there is less text, less rhythms? Are they capable enough to sing different rhythms at the same time? Are they skilled enough to go very quickly to a different harmony, or they need to be guided? That is all that you can analyze, because if you work with the choir or you're attending their rehearsals for 2 or 3 rehearsals, you find that out. In total, the information about their vocal range and their sweet spots and their tendencies and their characteristics can give you information about which key you should write the arrangement in. Of course, we always tend to write the arrangement in the original key, but sometimes that's not achievable, because the way you translate the song into choral arrangement, if the song is written for a solo voice, arranging it into a multi-voice part arrangement is something that can affect the key the song is. So you can change the key and you can choose the best one for your choir. I am sure that you know that there are keys in which your choir sounds better than the others. I will also say that when I write my choral arrangements, I do not write them, especially when it comes to popular songs, pop songs and stuff, I do not write them in a way that I have the main melody in sopranos, for example, and everybody else has a function of being backing vocals. I do not write arrangements like that. I do not consider that to be real choral arrangements. When I talk about arranging for a choir, I want to achieve a choir sound, the harmonies, everything that will be said further on considers that fact. The second step before the actual arranging is choosing the song, if you can, of course, choosing the song you will do for your choir. I know you have songs and pieces you have to sing, but you can also choose the order in which you start to sing something. Okay, so if you have a certain program you have to fulfill, there are certain possibilities when it comes to when you will start to sing this song and then go to this song, etc. So you can always choose at least the order in which you're going to start working on a song. If you are at the liberty of choosing a song for your choir, I argue that here on the channel very often when it comes to choosing the choir repertoire. Choosing the right choir repertoire and choosing the right song for your choir is something that gives you like half a battle won. So, for example, one of my choirs is a senior choir, a younger senior choir, but a senior choir. I cannot give them techno beat from 2023. I will choose a song they know, they're familiar with, and it's always best to choose a song they know, but they do not know very well, because then going to other voice parts could be a bit trickier. But it always helps if they know the song, know the main melody in some way, they know the lyrics, they know the general feel of the song. That's very good for them. And I will take into consideration that if it's a senior choir, then they don't have as much stamina, so the song will not be too long, it will not be too complicated, the parts will not be too complicated, because I know what they're capable of and what is difficult for them, and I don't want them to be exhausted at the end of the song. I want them to feel good and to really measure how much I can give them to handle and how much they cannot handle, and where's the limit when it comes to difficulty. Choosing the right song for your choir and then making an arrangement for that song is a battle half won. And now for the actual arranging. I hope you know that arranging means you have the main melody, you have the song, and you have to construct an arrangement by putting that melodies and backups and accompaniment into an arrangement, into different positions in the harmonic structure in order for the choir to be able to perform it. Of course, you can write the arrangement with piano or some other accompaniment or not. I will talk about writing an arrangement that works both ways. I tend to do that with my arrangements. Of course, it's easier to sing with accompaniment, but that doesn't mean that you should always write an arrangement with accompaniment. If you have a song you're writing the arrangement for, then that song probably has the main melody. I analyze that main melody to no end, and that is something that I find to be very important. For example, where are the jumps, tonal jumps, where there are notes ascending and descending, where there is a change of voice color because the jump is so high or so low that the register of the voice changes. I analyze the range of each phrase, and I analyze the vocal range of a certain melodic part, because I want to have the information on where should I put the main melody in which voice part. Of course, with the analysis of the melody, I analyze the harmonies that accompany it. People always ask me, how do I know which tone goes with the main melody? Well, if you know the chord of the particular part of the melody, then that chord at least has three tones, three notes that form that chord. So if you know that a particular harmony goes at a certain place within the melody, then you can arrange the other tones of that harmony of that chord to accompany the main melody. It will be easier when I show you the example. When doing the analysis of the main melody, you can also think about what the rhythm is like, where are the more difficult rhythms, how should you approach the rhythm of that song. If you wish to do a simple choral arrangement, then don't change the rhythm. Put everyone with the same rhythms and then just change the notes for the accompanying voices. So that's something you can consider. Let's go to the example.
Okay, so here on the screen we can see the main melody of the song I've chosen. We're talking about one of my senior choirs that is at the beginner stage with just formed the choir. It is a fixed choir. I'm not able to get any new singers. And currently, I have 2 sopranos, 6 altos, and 1 bass, and that's all I have. So there is no other option than to work with what I have. This song is a very beloved song here in Croatia. The origin is not Croatian, but it was featured, the Croatian version of it was featured in a beloved movie by any generation, a 50-year-old movie, but everybody loves it. So I know they know the song. They will be happy to sing the song. Everybody in the audience will be happy to hear it. They will be motivated, but at the same time, they know some of the song really well and not the song as a whole. So that works for me. Let's analyze the main melody. This is the original key in E minor, and then at the second part, at the chorus, it switches to E major. And immediately I can see that I need to change the key. I need to lower the key because upper E is something my sopranos are really, it's not a destination they can come to. So I will definitely lower it down. And at this point, I'm thinking about changing the key. Usually what people do is to lower by a semitone or a whole tone. I'm going to go really low because I know my choir and it's not a problem if they sing lower, but it's really a problem. The higher notes are really out of range. So I will lower it down, and my first bet is to go to the dominant chord of the original key, which is B minor. And I will choose B minor in this case because it is related to the original E minor, so I can count on the color of the song being a bit similar. They're not that far away, so that's also something you can consider. Okay, so now I will lower it, and you can see that the first tone of the new key is really low, but that's something my choir can work with. And the highest tone is B, the upper B. That is something that is achievable by my choir. The sopranos will get it. Altos will definitely not be able to get it, so I will have to choose some other ways, but it works. And when it comes to the chosen rhythm of the song, how will I translate the main melody to all the voices? So 3-part voice harmony. I will not change the rhythm. So I decide early on that everybody's going to sing the same lyrics at the same time. There will be no complicated rhythms. Everybody will sing the same rhythm as the main melody, the same lyrics as the same melody, because I want them to feel secure. I want to use the fact that they know the song. That's the reason why I chose it, and I want to work with that this way. Okay, so transposing to B minor down made the song really, really work for this particular choir.
Example. Okay, the next thing I will tell you is please don't think that just because there is a main melody, you have to put it into a single voice part, that the one voice part should sing the main melody throughout. Nobody says that. And in fact, I would encourage you, if you're working with a beginner choir, to really split the main melody between the voice parts. Because if they know the song, the main melody is really recognizable to them, and they always have a safe ground if at a certain point of the melody they have the main part of that melody. It makes sense to split a broad melody, meaning if the melody starts very high and ends very low, which is not uncommon because you have, an octave. To some choirs, the range of an octave is very big and almost unachievable. So if it starts really high and ends really low, it makes sense that the first part of the melody is sung by the sopranos and the lower part of the melody is sung by the altos, for example. When you
Okay, so now let's remember that I have to translate this melody to three voices. The first is two sopranos, the second is six altos, and the third one is a single bass. That bass player doesn't have a chance, meaning he doesn't have anyone he can relate to, and there will be no other male voices at this particular time when we are working uh, on this melody, on this song. So I will do the best thing when it comes to this and put the whole main melody into his voice. Because this way, I will always have the bass, I mean the ground, okay? So every other voice part, the sopranos and altos can relate to the main melody. He will always be safer because he doesn't have to sing some other notes other than the main melody. And I know he's very well aware of what the main melody is, and it will be much harder for him to switch to something else, especially because he's the lowest tone. Plus, that is very smart because the nature of things is maybe he will not be able to come to a certain rehearsal or certain performance, and then if he has the crucial line when it comes to the arrangement, I am in trouble. So that's the reason why I put the whole main melody into his line, because that way, if he's present, great, I have a backup. I have the bass, I have the lower frequencies, lower tones. But if he's not able to make it, then it's okay, because the other main melody is split between the sopranos and altos. So it works both ways, and that's what I mean by being very functional and very strategic. Obviously, two sopranos and six altos is not something that I can balance really well, and I really have to be smart, and having one bass is something that is a benefit. It's better to have him than not, in my opinion, but you have to work in a strategic way. When it comes to the main melody split between the sopranos and altos, it works really wonderfully because the beginning of the melody is really low. It's something that sopranos will struggle with, so they need to be supported. It makes more sense that the first two bars of the melody go to the altos because they will find it comfortable. But then the main melody goes really high in a really quick manner. So that part will definitely go to the sopranos. Of course, the next bars are at the same range, at the same vocal range, so it will go to the sopranos. But the ending of the first 4-bar part of the melody is actually really low, so it's something that altos will be comfortable singing and sopranos will not. So I will put it into altos. And this, it is a beneficial thing about this melody that it is repeated. The parts are repeated, so I will do the same thing with the melody. So split it between altos, sopranos, and altos again. Okay, and now with the melody of the second part, the first thing we have is a big jump. That jump will be done with the altos or orchestrated in some other way, but the main melody can go to sopranos or to altos, and I will work on the details. I will see where the multi-voice harmony is needed and where it is best to go in unison. But the thing I know I have to do is at the end, at the bar 29, I have to give the main melody to the sopranos because it is very high for my altos and it needs to go up. So when you look at it, I already have the backbone of the main melody that I need to be covered, and all of the other things I will work on in the next section.
For example, when you analyze the melody and you analyze where the melodic range is a certain kind and you aim to connect it with a certain vocal part, then you have to think about how to connect all the other voice parts and how to connect the other things that are happening. Multi-voice part singing doesn't have to be all the time. There can be places where they sing in unison, and actually it is very effective that they sing a part in unison and then go to into multi-voice part harmony. That is something that sounds really good, especially in a simple arrangement. It changes the color and brings out the difference between the unison and the choral arrangement. And it works for you as the choir director, because if there is a part that they sing in unison, then that's easier to learn, right? A benefit of having a unison part is that the tonal jump is then easier. If they have a jump ahead, if they have a note they have to jump to, I always try to make the jump familiar. The note they're aiming for, I aim for it to be familiar already from someplace before. Here is an example.
Okay, so now when I split the melody this way, I will try to be very smart about the other things. Okay, so filling in the gaps. Okay, so the beginning, we said it's very low. The first tone is actually really low for sopranos. It's almost too low for altos, but for senior choir, it works. Because they are at the beginner stage of working as a choir, it really makes sense to give them the beginning in unison, because that way they feel safer, they feel the bass, the basis of everything, they feel the key, they feel the rhythm, the tempo. Much more simple if they get it this way. Okay, so I aim to give them the beginning in unison, but the first note is much too low for the soprano, so I will work in a harmony. So the chord that goes at this first note is F sharp major, and I can work with F sharp, A sharp, or C sharp. It makes sense to go with the C sharp because it's the tone that my sopranos will find it easier to sing. So the beginning will be together, and then we have the main melody that goes to the sopranos. That jump is something that, they will know how to sing it because they know the melody, but it needs to be really clear to them what the jump is. And I'm not so worried about the jump, but I am worried about what happens next. So I know that when the sopranos go to the main melody, to the higher notes, my altos will be confused where to go next. So I made the jump in unison for everyone, but the altos then stay on the same note because harmonically it works. It's the note that is in the chord that goes at that time of the melody. So I work on the jump in unison to stay together, and then we go to multi-voice part. The altos stay on the note they have already gotten to. So it's much easier for them to go away from the sopranos or from the main melody. It makes harmonically more sense and melodically to go to D sharp right here. So from that tone, I will make the altos go to the familiar tone from before and stay on it because they already know it from before. And then at the end of bar 6, I will give the altos the main melody and I will work on the melody with the sopranos in unison with the altos, but when they arrive to the lowest tone they can comfortably sing, I will leave them there, and that C sharp goes with the harmony that is here. So it works. Everybody's comfortable, every jump is handled. If they have to jump to some place, then they stay at that place, and that goes really well. That works with the whole page. The second page, the transition from the last tone of the first page and the first tone on the next page is an octave. That's something that the sopranos cannot sing, it's too low. So I will give that to my altos. And the sopranos will not have the octave, but will have the same tone already at the upper. And that way I get the harmony because the octave of the tone is the first harmonic when it comes to the acoustic, so that works. And already I find that I have enough main melody with the sopranos, but just to zhuzh things up a bit to the altos, I will give the lower third of the first bar here, or the bar 18, just to mix things up a bit. I do the same thing at the next sequence. And then when it comes to this big jump at the bar 29, which I have to handle, the sopranos I'm not worried about because they know their line. That is the main line, the main melody in the song. So I know they know the jump. But I know it will be a very big problem for the altos to go to a different jump because they have it in their ear that something has to be different. Okay, so I solved that problem by having the previous melody all in unison, and the main melody has this note G sharp, and that's part of the main melody, so they sing it all together. And then in the bar 29, the G sharp is something that altos will jump to because it works with the chord that is here. And the G sharp is very convenient because they have heard it right before in the previous bar, so they already have it in their ear. And all things considered, I have a much better chance of this sounding really well. And it's a combination of unison singing, multi-voice part singing, jumps are handled, everybody feels safe. There are things that we will have to practice more, but I think everything will sound beautifully.
Example. When it comes to arranging everything, I strongly believe that you should give them safe places and you shouldn't give them a lot of time to get lost. That is very obvious in the arrangement I'm showing you because they start in unison and then they go away from each other and then they go back to the unison. This works wonders for beginner choirs, for difficult sounding amateur choirs, for choirs that need their time to work on singing multi-voice part. If that's a new choir, it will need time to develop their harmonic structure, so that is something that works for your benefit.
Beginning in unison and handling the jumps in unison is the safety net. And they always have the safe ground because the bass sings the main melody. So if they get lost, they will always come back. Additionally, it's constructed that way that they're never alone. The voice part is never alone on their own for a long period of time, and there is always a pathway to get back. Okay, so if you look at the amount of time they spend out of the main melody, it's not very long, and they always have a safe ground to come back to. Even if they get lost, even if they jump to the main melody without wanting to, it's not something that will disrupt the sound so much that the song will be flat. So my safety nets here are the fact that everybody knows the song, so I can intervene when it comes to the multi-voice part singing, but I use it in such a way that it makes sense and it's logical for them, and it brings the harmonic color, but it doesn't affect the whole song, and it doesn't change the whole identity of the song. So it works.
Benefit. If you construct it with functionality, then the artistry is something that can only make things better. And there is a big difference between writing a functional choir arrangement and a beautiful choir arrangement that is just not very practical. So all of these instructions are with that in mind. I want you to have a functional choir arrangement, especially if you're coming to it as a beginner. Okay, so now maybe you're thinking, okay, I will do everything you say could do and should do, and I should worry about this and I should be careful about this. But when I write all of that, it seems maybe too simple or not too interesting to listen to. Well, I would argue that, yeah, maybe some arrangements, some songs are in need of more diversity, but you can always play with the lyrics, you can always play with the dynamics. It makes a difference. It makes a bigger difference than you probably realize it would. When I started writing choral arrangements, I always thought that, oh my god, I have to complicate it because it has to be interesting all of the time, and it doesn't. The sound already makes it interesting. And if you write a verse in a particular arrangement and then you feel the need that the next verse should be very different, it doesn't have to be, because it's a verse for a reason. So if you hear the same arrangement twice but with different lyrics, it's okay. Sometimes it's better. Simpler is better. And if you think, well, this is too simple of an arrangement, how will I get good at this? Well, your choir will get better at singing harmonies, and you will get more skilled as a choir arranger, if that's a word, actually. The details and the versions and the tricks, that's something you can work on. So if the first choir arrangement you write seems too simple, give yourself the benefit of the doubt and just work on it more, work on the next arrangement, and you will, especially if you're working with your choir and writing arrangements for your choir and you want to try to make them sound better, then you will get to know them better. Okay. Final thoughts about this. We will expand about this topic in the future. This is like the first video I'm talking about this. This is a very complex subject. I hope at least you have a certain amount of knowledge from now on. I know that probably if you're working in this field, you know a lot about music theory and harmonic structures and harmonic rules and polyphonic rules, etc. And I just want to tell you that there are many rules and the rules are meant to be followed, but you can break the rules. There is something called the parallel fifth. The first time I realized that nobody will sue me if I write the parallel fifths, a huge burden was lifted. I mean, Smoke on the Water, a very popular song, has parallel fifths, so I believe that even Bach wouldn't mind. But the rules you have to be very careful about is when it comes to copyright law, and it's different for every country. I know that for some other states you have to, in order to write the choral arrangement in general, you have to get the permission of the author or the publishing house, the record house the song has been published under, so be very careful about that. Okay, so more videos about this in the future. For now, I encourage you to start writing. The only way you can get good or get better or get great at writing choral arrangement is to start writing them. Don't be afraid, okay? And trust your ear. The only thing you should follow is that the voices shouldn't cross each other, okay? So it's not a very good idea to write melodies that change the order of the sound, the voice part sounds. I advise you that the sopranos are always above the alto melodic line, and yeah, soprano, alto, tenor, bass, and whatever construction you have, just follow that. But when it comes to arranging the notes and which chords and which notes go with which notes, trust your ear. It needs to be logical, and it needs to be familiar, and it needs to find the melodies that your choir voice parts are singing should be comfortable. That said, where have I been? I've been getting comments and emails about if I'm okay, which I just cannot explain how. I mean, there are strangers to me, strangers there on the internet that worry about me. That is just, thank you for being concerned. I am doing really well. The last time I put a video here was, I think, in November, and things just got crazy then. It will seem silly when I tell you this, but it was really like stressful. As you probably know, in the end of the year, there are many Christmas concerts and New Year concerts and stuff. And with one of my choirs, I was planning a really, really, really big concert at the beginning of December with a big band, jazz big band. And what happened was the World Football Championship, and Croatia, the country that I'm from, was doing really well. And then we won against Brazil, and the next game was supposed to happen at the very same time the concert we were planning for months ought to happen. And then the chaos ensued because it was a crazy time for us. I know it seems silly, but everything stopped here. It started like that. We had to change the time, and everything was really constricted. And from that point on, it just became crazy. Last time we spoke here, I was working with 4 choirs. I'm now working with 7. In the past year, I've started 3 new choirs. I've been very busy. And the problem with me being busy is that the first thing that goes is my dedication to this channel. I mean, I'm a choir director, I'm a musician, and this channel was created in order to help, but I made a promise to myself that I will never become a YouTuber. I have a huge respect towards YouTubers, but I don't want to just talk about my profession, I want to do my profession. When it comes to this channel, unfortunately, I cannot be as dedicated as I want to be because, first of all, I don't want to just film a video and put something out there just to get the views. My only motivation here was always to help. I don't consider myself being very helpful if I don't have the time or the energy or the brain space to even talk about anything when it comes to my job. I hope this is one of the reasons why you're here at the channel, because you can trust that I'm actually a really active choir director, and you can trust my opinion and my practice. And I hope you're not mad at me, and I hope you will stay and see what I'm up to when it comes to this channel in the following months. Okay, so that's it. That's the update. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here again. Thank you for remembering this channel and myself and the things we've been through. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. I hope it will be very soon. I don't know about the days. Sundays were always the days before, but I don't know. I will not make any promises. Just know that I will be back, and I'm working on this, and I'm not done with the channel. I'm back, and I will always return to the channel because I love you guys and you mean so much to me, and the channel is something that I'm very proud of. I hope the channel brings some good into the world. Okay, so that's it. Now I'm done. Bye!